Alright guys, so this weekend the Trackmania World Championship is hosted. It's been 3 years since we last had a World Championship in Trackmania, and in that time, a lot of new players have discovered the game. If you are one of them and you're looking to get into the Trackmania competitive scene, but you don't really know how the format works or who the players are, then this video is going to be very instructive. In this video, I'll be talking about the 16 players that qualified for the tournament, and who I think has the best chances of winning and placing on the podium. Let's get started. First of all, if you want to watch the tournament, it will be live streamed on twitch.tv/Trackmania on the 26th and the 27th of June for the group stage, and then the 4th of July for the finals. I'll be casting it together with Medic, so I hope to see you guys there. The format the World Championship is played in is called Cup Mode. The way Cup Mode works is that players play rounds over and over again and try to gather points by winning each race. The objective is to reach 120 points as quickly as you can, and once you do that, you have to win one more round to secure your spot. It's a very exciting format, as usually races between the top level Trackmania players are decided by only a few hundredths and sometimes only thousands of a second.
Tween losing some speed, and Pack with a great transition onto the quarter pipe. And now it is the two finalists, Kappa and Pack, up to the last corner. Who's gonna be the world champion? Is it gonna be Pack or Kappa? Kappa with more speed, and he's gonna get it. Kappa is the new world champion of Trackmania 2 Stadium 2018. Oh my days.
And now let's talk about the players that will fight for the World Championship trophy. A lot of these are well-known names that have been around in Trackmania esports for almost 10 years. And some are completely new names that we haven't really seen too much of, and it's going to be interesting to see how they stack up against the greats. So let's make a tier list. This is going to be my prediction based on what I've seen in the Trackmania Grand League regular season, and also based on the Trackmania World Cup qualifiers. There are 5 tiers here. The first one, can win it all, is going to be the player that I think will win the tournament. The second tier is going to be the players that I think will make it to the final. So Trackmania matches consist of 4 players. I'm going to put the top 4 in the first 2 categories here. Then we have SIA in playoffs, players that I think will make it out of groups, but most likely will not make it to the grand final. Then we have make or break, which is players that could make it on a good day, but it could also completely fall apart on a bad day. And then we have the final tier, underdog, players that I think most likely will not make it to the playoffs, but it would be a great underdog story if they did. I'll be going through them based on their seeding going into the tournament. So we're starting off with McQuattro. So McQuattro has been a top level Trackmania player in the style tech for years, but recently he branched out and tried to learn all the styles, learning dirt, learning ice, learning grass, etc. And he has quickly shown himself to be really good on those styles as well. He is from Finland, he uses camera 2 and plays with the Xbox One controller. And going into this tournament, I think he is an underdog. He's a very solid Trackmania player, but it is going to be hard to fight off some of these big names that have been on the top stage for years and years now. If he could do it, it would be a great story. That same story can be said for the second player here, which is Soulja. Soulja really impressed me in the Trackmania World Cup qualifiers. He was looking to be one of the best players out of the open qualifier. Did show some signs of weakness though, when he was getting close to winning that first match, but he just couldn't quite close it out. And Dolefault actually ended up beating him in that match, where he was leading by 40 points. So for that reason, I think Soulja is an underdog player here. He really has shown great potential, but it is going to take a miracle run, I think, to go all the way. Now, next up, there is Scrappy. Scrappy is one of the most well-established names in Trackmania esports. He's been around for years and has shown himself to be one of the best players in the entire field, but he's lacking a little bit of consistency. Scrappy, on paper, if you look at the leaderboards, he's one of the fastest players when it comes to personal bests, but usually in matches, he will make some mistakes, crash the walls, etc., and that is what's costing him a little bit against the other players. On a great day, there are very few players that can beat Scrappy in a match, but if he has a medium day, or maybe even a bad day, then he could fall down on the scoreboard. Scrappy, to me, belongs in the make or break tier. Then we have Avon. Avon is one of the youngest players here, the second youngest player in the field. He's only 17 or 18 years old, and he's really showing himself to be, you know, the future of Trackmania, a bit of a prodigy. He plays on a keyboard, one of the only players here that does play on a keyboard, and he is one of the underdogs in my opinion. Avon is a great Trackmania player, but as I said, it's the same story with the others, that it's very, very difficult to go up against these big names in this type of format, where if you are good but you're lacking a little bit of consistency, then that can cost you big time. So I'm very excited to see how Avon plays in the tournament, but to me going into it, he is an underdog. Then we have Dolefault. Dolefault really impressed me in the qualifiers, especially on the map Bicycle, where he won 40 out of 40 possible points in a match. And that is really what secured him the spot here in the Trackmania World Cup, the top 16. It's going to be interesting to see how he does, because I don't really know too much about Dolefault in Trackmania esports, but I'm very excited to see what he can do. To me, going into the tournament, he is an underdog. Now let's talk about Binks. Binks, in the winter season of Trackmania Grand League, qualified himself to be one of the new Trackmania Grand League players, so essentially becoming one of the top 16 players in the world, and he really impressed everyone with his run in the Open League. He is super consistent, he's super fast, he seems to be good on just about every style. There's not really a single style that is a downfall for him, but what he's probably lacking is this competitive experience that some of the other players have, where he hasn't been around for too long, maybe isn't too used to playing these tournament matches. And that is something that, you know, will only get better with time. But for now, I see him as a playoff candidate, but I'm not sure if I see him winning the tournament. Then we have Mudda. Mudda used to be just a full speed player in Trackmania. He used to essentially be a one-trick pony, only playing one style of track. But lately, he's branched out to learning dirt, learning tech, learning grass and everything else, ice as well. He's a master at that. And he's really showing himself to just be one of the best all-rounders. And that is what you need in this tournament. You need to master everything. Mudda does that better than almost anyone. He's fast on paper, he's fast when it matters, and he really showed it in the qualifier as well, when he swept through with seemingly no difficulty. So Mudda to me is a podium candidate. I think he will place in the top 4. Then let's talk about Kappa. Kappa here is the defending world champion. We haven't had a world championship for 3 years, and in 2018, Kappa won the world championship ahead of Carl Jr. and ahead of Tween. I don't remember who the 4th player in the match was. But Kappa really is one of the strongest players in this field, and he's really looking to defend his title. Will he be able to defend the title? I'm not so sure, because he is going up against some big names. To me, he is definitely a podium candidate, but I'm not sure if I'll say that he will win the entire tournament. Looking really forward to see how Kappa does though in the tournament. Then we have Masa. Masa is again one of these players that on paper, in time attack, when it's just about setting one fast record, he really shines. He has incredible raw pace, but he lacks this consistency. Some of the same problems that we see with Scrappy in matches, where he'll have some really good rounds and then some really bad rounds. So Masa for me, I think he's a make or break player. He could make playoffs if he has a good day, but it is going to be very difficult because the remaining players here, the highest seeds in the tournament, are very good. So let's now talk about Spam. Spam is one of the most experienced Trackmania players, period. He was the world champion in the game in 2012, almost 9 years ago, and he's still competing on the top level. He's one of the most veteran experienced in this type of format, has played hundreds if not thousands of matches in this format. He knows how to play a good match, he's consistent, but he's lacking a little bit of that raw pace, a little bit of that young aggression almost in these matches, that little bit of risk taking. And for that, I think he might lose out on a little bit, especially when it comes to like 10-pointers. To me, he is a playoffs candidate, but I do not see him winning the tournament. Looking forward to see how he does though. Now we have Papu. Now I mentioned how Mudda was sort of a full speed player before he got into the Grand League. Papu was long known as one of the best dirt players in the game. He won everything there was to win when it was separated by style, the tournaments. He won everything there was to win in dirt. Now, with the multi-style, he's learned tech really well, he's learned full speed really well, and ice and etc. And he really is one of the most consistent all-around players as well. Is maybe lacking a little bit of that top speed that we see from some of these other players coming up here. And for that, I think he will make playoffs, but I think it's going to be very difficult to reach the grand finals or maybe even win the tournament. Because if you're just, you know, 10/100ths slower than your opponents on average, that's enough to not be able to win. Now let's talk about Offi. Offi is the 5th seed going into the tournament, and he has really impressed everyone lately. He joined the Trackmania competitive scene in the fall season of 2020, so not even a year ago that he was able to qualify for the Grand League. And since then, he's been very consistent among the top 8 players, and I think we can expect to see that in this World Championship as well. So for me, he is a clear playoffs candidate, but again, this top 4 is going to be very stacked, and I'm finding it hard to see him get there, but maybe he will surprise me and everyone else as well. Now we have Aurel. Now Aurel is the 4th seed going into the tournament, but Aurel in this type of format is not, to me at least, one of the clear favorites. Aurel is very consistent in the Trackmania Grand League regular season format, where it's 6 laps and it's all about being as consistent as possible. But in this format, it's mostly about raw pace and being able to drive just at that sweet spot where you're risking, but you're not risking too much to get the points. He is lacking a little bit of raw pace to truly get there. For me, Aurel can certainly make playoffs, but I think he might get beaten out on pace by some of the others. So to me, he is a make or break category player. Now we have 3 players left for my prediction here. Gwen, Pack, and Carl Jr. Lately, these 3 players have sort of been the greatest, the uncontested. I mean, Carl Jr., the 3-time world champion, Pack won the world championship in 2016, and Gwen is sort of the young superstar in Trackmania, only 17 years old, and really shows himself to be the top 1, if not the top 2 in the world in certain formats. So let's talk about these 3, starting with Gwen. Gwen, I would put higher on the tier list if it wasn't for a tweet that he posted just the other day, where he said that he didn't really put in too much time to practice for the tournament because of personal reasons. So because of that, I will put Gwen in the make or break category. But if Gwen has enough time to practice the tracks and really get down the consistency and, you know, get ready for a match, he could potentially win it all. He really could, if not be in the final match in the top 4. 2 players left. And I think that Pack will be the winner of Trackmania World Cup 2021. The reason I think that Pack is going to win is because he truly impressed everyone and showed himself to be an absolute powerhouse in the Trackmania Grand League Winter 2021 season, when he would have gotten about 500 points if it wasn't for the point loss system, and he averaged consistently among the top 3 places, really outperforming the entire field, and also perhaps his closest rival, Carl Jr. The format that's played now with just a single lap and, you know, consistent fast rounds is one that suits him. His practice and his times on paper looks great, and I really think that he might beat Carl Jr. But there's a golden rule of Trackmania, which is that Trackmania is a game about driving to the finish line, and Carl Jr. wins in the end. Carl Jr. really is the Trackmania greatest of all time. He's the triple world champion, 5-time Serrator Cup champion, and apart from that, he's won a ton of other tournaments as well. Really, if you have a tournament, you can never count out Carl Jr. I will certainly not count him out this time, but I think that Pack might have the edge over him. For me, he's a clear podium candidate. I think he will make it to the final, but we'll see then if he's able to beat Pack, or if Pack or Mudda or Kappa, or maybe someone else. Maybe I'm dead wrong. Maybe someone else takes it all. But this is my prediction for the tournament. If you would like to make your own prediction and your own tier list, then there will be a link to this exact tier maker, and you can then at me on Twitter what you think will happen. But I'm feeling pretty strong about this prediction. We'll see what happens. As I said, the tournament starts this Saturday, the 26th of June, and then it goes to the 27th of June for the group stage. And then the finals are the 4th of July, so don't miss that, because if you haven't watched Trackmania esports before, it's so interesting. There are no differences between the players' cars, and the only way you can gain time and the only way you can win is simply by driving better than your opponents, better racing lines. But these players all push it to the limit, so it's really close in every round. It's often decided by just hundredths, by one small turn. If you make a single error on your racing line, that could be what costs you the points in the round. And it's going to be a pleasure. I'm going to be casting it with Medic, and last time we did this, we had a great time. It was a great show. Don't miss out. It's on Twitch TV Trackmania. I hope to see you all there. It's going to be a banger. But yeah, guys, that's it for this video. Let me know what you thought. If you want more tier lists like this, I'll be happy to make them. But until next time, and until I see you on the World Cup stream, have a good one.